Welcome back to Whole Goals. My name is Andrew Love, and today we're going to be talking about how to deal with stress related to your kids and how to win at the dad-kid dynamic. I know it's crushing a lot of people. I know a lot of people are super stressed out about it. So let's get into it. So anybody who chose to be a dad wants to be a good dad. You wanna enjoy the ride. You wanna see your kids grow up. You wanna experience the highs and the lows with them. You wanna be a supportive force in their life, of course. That's what we all wish we had growing up, whether we did or didn't get it. But that's for sure what you wanna be. Even if, for whatever reason, you ended up being a dad by mistake, you still wanna be a good dad. Nobody wants to be a deadbeat dad or a spaz dad. I'm gonna get into spaz dads in a bit. But the point is this, it's hard. It's really hard sometimes because a lot of us don't really have good examples, and this world isn't really filled with remarkable, spectacular dads, if you know what I'm saying. The media shows us the worst kind of dads possible. And there's like not many songs that's about, father-son love or father-daughter love or whatever. It's just, we're kind of shooting from the hip a lot of times. And if you're lucky enough, again, to have a great example, good on you. But it still seems like we're swimming upstream a lot of the times in terms of our culture, in terms of advice that we're getting or examples that we have to choose from. So we're just kind of making it up. And because of that, so many dads feel super overwhelmed. You look at your kids and it just seems like they're these little forces that you can't quite grab, and you're just trying to get through a day. And it feels like, it's beyond your pay grade to be an amazing dad. And a lot of times when you don't feel like you're doing a good job, these kind of feelings come up like, I'm a failure, I'm screwing up my kid's life, I don't know what I'm doing. And that can really take a man down. That can really erode your soul. It can erode your hopes and your dreams for your future because you're stuck to this sense of losing. I'm a loser dad. And when you have these feelings like you're a loser dad, it creates this desire to want to do self-destructive things. Everybody has their own flavor of self-destruction. For some people, it's a form of escapism. They might go to porn, drinking, drugs, whatever. And these kind of numb this feeling like I'm a failure for a short period of time. Unfortunately, that sense of being a failure comes back with interest after the buzz is gone from the form of escapism that you chose. Some other people just kind of keep it inside, and eventually they start snapping at their kids. They take it out on their kids because they feel like if I can't help you, I'm gonna control you, or I'm gonna yell at you. It's just this form of I feel like my life is spinning out of control. How can I control it? And for a lot of people, they just start to wish they had different kids, or they were different, or that their life was different, and they wish that they could win the lottery, or something from outside of themselves can fix all of their problems. And that's not how it works. Because the biggest thing that you're losing out on is the fact that you're missing the magical moments of being together with your kids and experiencing the nuance of this relationship that it's unique to you and your kids. There will never be another you and another one of your kids. And if you're comparing yourself and if you're wishing you were somebody else, then you're missing out on the magic that is the uniqueness of your relationship. So this video is going to be teaching you what the problems are that most of us are facing in terms of being a dad, being a husband in this day and age, and then how you can resolve these problems with some very actionable steps. Because regardless of how perfect your life is going, there's still going to be hiccups, there's still going to be stress. That's natural. Stress is just you're reaching the limitation of where you are, and you're stretching, and you're going to expand, but that depends on how you deal with stress. Okay, stress is natural. It's going to kind of pop into your life, but if you deal with it in a healthy way, then it turns into growth. And if you don't know how to handle stress, then you inherit it, and it becomes, a part of the DNA of yourself and your relationships. It starts to kill you. It starts to destroy your mind. You go crazy thinking about stress. Your feelings, your emotions just get wrapped around the scarcity heart set, where you're just worried about this person, worried about that situation. Your spirit starts to die, essentially, because you're disconnected from your power. You're becoming more human and less energy, less connected to your environment. And eventually that takes its toll on your body. So we're gonna figure out what the problems are and what the solutions are in this video. If you don't deal with these situations now, like if you don't deal with the stress of being a parent now, you are gonna turn into what I call a spaz dad. And that is, I'm sure you've seen them out in public when they're just like, shut up, go, stop, and you're just so tense, so tight, and you feel like you don't know what to do, you're overwhelmed, you're stressed out. And there's a saying in Japanese, which I always butcher. Don't quote me on the actual way of saying this, but it's called kireru. Whenever I say it to Japanese people, I can say it 10 times and they're like, oh, kireru. But I think I'm saying what they're saying, but it's one of those situations. And kireru, however it's actually pronounced, is this, the first time it was described to me by the Japanese guy, he said it's like this. Which essentially is, one day, you come back home from work, from whatever, you're eating dinner at the table as the dad, and the dad just one day flips the table and starts going, and just kind of freaks out. And this is what I call spaz dad. And it's like you have this stress building up until finally you just pop, you just explode. That explosion is kireru. And that could be outward, where you start, taking it out on your environment, which a lot of dads do. Or it could be inward, where you're accumulating so much stress inside that you end up with some health problem. You end up having mental health problems, spiritual health problems, where you're disconnected from reality. It's just like something clicks. And, it's when you reach any kind of critical mass of stress in your life, eventually at some point it's going to take its toll. So please take note, look at yourself, evaluate your situation with your kids, and learn how to enjoy the process. That's what this video is about. So some of the problems that people are experiencing is the fact that they have split attention. When you're around your kids, you get pings in your phone, you have business calls, or you have some other distraction. There's an important game going on, but also your kids want to play, and so you can't enjoy whatever it is that you're supposed to be doing or feel like you should be doing. But you also don't want to ignore your kids, but you can't be in two places at once. And when you try, you start to die, okay? If you try to be two people, or you try to split your mind in half and multitask, you end up doing two or more things half-assedly or terribly instead of one thing really well. Okay, so this is one huge problem that I know a lot of people face, because work comes home with you. It's in your pocket, it's in your phone, it's constantly kind of calling at you, trying to grab at you, being, come back to me, I miss you, work. And you're like, but I want to be at home with my kids. So the first thing is that split attention will kill you if you don't address it. Another issue that a lot of people experience is that their kids have too much energy. So I guess as we get older and older, I'm almost 40, you realize that you can't just play Nerf gun for 6 hours straight. Maybe your kids can, maybe you can, maybe you're one of the lucky few who has boundless energy, but a lot of us feel like, the kids are too hyper. And the other thing is, it's not like, if you have a job, if you have responsibilities, if you have bills to pay, whatever, if you're setting up stuff, if you're entrepreneurial, if you're industrious, then chances are that's also taking some of your energy, and that's emotional energy, that's mental energy, that's a lot of bandwidth. So sometimes that eats away at your ability to have energy for your kids. Again, so you see that they're super hyper and you're low energy, they're high and you're low. That doesn't mix very well. We're gonna get into a solution for that. The next one is, maybe you're experiencing the opposite. Maybe your kids are super lazy. Maybe they're very disengaged and they're very passive and they're sluggish and they just want to sit on the couch and play video games all day. I know that's a major issue, and maybe that's you. Maybe you're super lazy and you're disengaged and you don't know how to kind of plug in to getting more energy so you can be more available for your kids. Which brings me to the next point, that a lot of people are not into the same stuff as their kids. So their stuff might be into Legos and you're like, I hate Legos. And so every time you're with them and they want to do this thing that you don't like, it's kind of like, it feels like work and you're kind of falling asleep. Maybe they're into music and you don't like that music or whatever. There's, maybe your kid's into ballet, or maybe your kid's into anything, horseback riding, snail collecting, I don't know, but it's just not your thing, and you find it excruciating to hang out with them when they're doing their thing. We're gonna get into that. Maybe they're really annoying to you. Maybe your kids are super annoying, and when they talk, they're like, he did this, he did that, she did this, she did that. And you're like, shut up. Why do you always whine so much? Why do you always tell on other kids so much? Why can't you just be cooler? Why can't you just be whatever, right? A lot of times we wish our kids could be something different than what they are, and that becomes irksome to us. That becomes grating on our souls. And when they speak, I know a lot of parents who are in a sense turned off by their kids because they're like, my kid's a dork. What do I do with a dorky kid, right? So we're gonna get into that. And so again, for a lot of people, if they feel like their kids are alien to them, it starts to feel like it's not their kids. Like, whose kids are they? There's a Talking Heads song which is all about like waking up. This is not my life. I forget how the song goes. It's a really bad rendition. How could I wake up in this life? Blah 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 blah. I don't know that song very well, obviously, but it's like a lot of people wake up and they're like, this is not my son, this is not my daughter. How did I end up with a kid like this? First of all, this is all perception, and we can resolve all this, even just in this video, if you're open to it. So now we're gonna get into the solutions. If you can identify with any of these problems, I got some solutions for you. Everything is resolvable. Everything's a matter of a perspective shift. So let's address split attention, having your focus being split between one thing and another. I want to teach you how you can win at this game, because this used to really destroy me. I used to not have any boundaries between work life and home life because I was working from home, so it was always kind of like I was in both realms at the same time, and it was driving me crazy because I felt like I was failing at work, because when I was trying to get work done, my kids were like, I want to play, throw me around, let's play, let's go run around, and I was like, but I'm working. And so my work was suffering, but also I wasn't giving them the attention that they needed. I have 3 little boys and they need a lot of attention. So it was absolutely destroying me, because instead of winning at 2 things, being a great worker, being a great dad, I felt like I was failing at both, which is compounded failure. Because if you're failing at 2 important things, I'm gonna lose my job, I'm gonna lose my kids, that kind of sucks. So here's what I did. I designated time for them and for work. I make it very clear that this is working me, and I'm gonna work until this period of time, and after that, what do you want to do? And we create a deal, we create a bargain, and it really works out because they have some ownership over their actions. They understand that if they interfere with my thing that I'm trying to accomplish now, then they're going to lose out on the thing that they want to do. So for instance, I'm like, okay, I need 20 more minutes. What time does it say? Oh, it's 2:40? Okay, so at 3 o'clock, I'm going to be done. Look at the clock. At 3 o'clock, come knocking on my door. I will be done. And then what do you want to do? Oh, you want to go ride your bike? Then we will totally ride your bike. And then it becomes this win-win situation, because their responsibility is to be occupied and not disturb you so you can have that uninterrupted time. But at that point, it's your responsibility to finish your work, cut it off, and then do what they want to do. And when you have that type of agreement and you live up to your end of the deal, they live up to their end of the deal, then it's really a win-win, because you can close your computer, close your phone, disconnect. Don't bring your phone, don't bring work on the bike ride or whatever you're gonna do with your kids. You separate it, you put it in a box, you leave it there, and then you're dad. So you have your worker hat on, you take that off, you put on your dad hat, and then you're super fun dad. And that deals with the kind of energy situation, because you will get more energy when you can focus. You get into the flow state when you can focus. You don't get into the flow state if you're multitasking. That creates this kind of sense of just overwhelm and insanity, right? Is because you have all this stuff going on that's unresolved. So you can cut that window. You put everything in boxes. Men like to have everything in boxes. So working out a deal is clutch. If you want to not be split in your attention, then schedule time. And that your kids have buy-in, that you're not just down, okay, at this time, this will happen. It's like, okay, I need this amount of time. I need 30 minutes to do my thing. And then what do you want to do? And then if they get to say what they want to do, then it's like they're equal partners in this deal. And it raises the stakes because it gives both of you responsibility, And when you can work it out and make it operational, then it's really an amazing feeling. The next thing is not being interested. If they're into stuff that you don't like, I think you're missing the point. The point is not the thing, the point is them. You see, when we meet somebody new and we're really interested in them, we're interested then in the stuff that they do. This happens all the time in dating, that when you meet somebody that you really like, you feel something for, you end up liking the things they like while you like them, right? It's kind of a byproduct of like, oh, I like you and you like this thing, so therefore I like that thing. You might never naturally like it without them. They're your connection to that thing. But for some reason, we don't afford our kids that same grace sometimes, where we kind of don't like their thing and we're more judgmental of the things that they like because we don't have that fresh heart set towards them. So an important aspect is to say, maybe I don't like Pokemon cards or whatever it is that you're into, but I like you and I want to understand why you like that thing. So you start asking questions. My dad was a master at that. Even if he knows the answer, he'll ask questions because he wants you to say it so that you can create this bond. Because if you're interested in somebody, you're interested in why they like stuff. You know, what about it? What joy does it give you? What's your frustration? And when you hear these details about their relationship with a thing, whatever it is, video games, whatever, then you can kind of get into it through them. Through their interest, you become more interested. But the main point is this: don't worry about the thing, just spend time with them. That becomes super precious for them in the long run. In terms of being annoying, okay, first of all, you have to understand that it's part and parcel with being a parent is that you're always gonna have limitations. So if your kids are being annoying, a lot of times that's just your limitation. They're being annoying maybe to you alone because they remind you of yourself or they remind you of something else. And it's not them per se, it's what they represent in that moment, okay? So understand that their being annoying is also your limitation. As a parent, it's your responsibility to help alleviate them of being annoying. Because if they are, subjectively being annoying, if they're absolutely, undeniably being annoying to the world, then it's your responsibility as a parent to help them grow out of that phase, to learn how to communicate better. Because a lot of times, their annoyance is just a cry for attention. If they're, can we do this? Can we do this? Can we do that? They're asking you so many times because you're not really looking at them and answering them, giving an answer that goes deep within them. If you're just like, no, just look at them and say, look, I hear you, I see you, I feel you, but now's not the time. Let's talk about this in 10 minutes. Now let me finish this, or whatever the case may be. But again, a lot of the time their annoyance is just because they don't know how else to get your attention. The benefit of having kids in the first place is it's the only real chance we get to completely grow our hearts. Our hearts will be challenged all the time. Our ability to really understand somebody, to really care for somebody, even when they're being difficult. Our ability to take the high road. When they're whining and complaining, that we don't whine and complain about their whining and complaining, but that we take the high road and just take it in and give back tolerance and grace. That's our chance as parents. And if you miss out on that opportunity, then you're missing out on your chance to grow. So them being annoying, if you can see it from a different angle, if you can see it as this is them really attempting to gain my attention, to tell me something important, then it changes the game. Next problem that I'd like to talk about is oh, but my kids don't listen to me. And so a lot of times, honestly, they're just giving you this feedback loop that you're not good at listening to them, and they've learned how to listen from you, so they're just as good at listening as you are. That means do you give them your full attention when they speak, when it's their turn? Because again, if you have multiple kids too and they're all talking at the same time, you need to learn how to say, okay, you first, then you, and then you can really take them in, okay? But the point is this, that attention, giving your heart attention to somebody, this undistracted heart allows you to experience the tenderheartedness that is so important for experiencing somebody, okay? I know it sounds kind of airy-fairy, but hear me out here. that tenderheartedness is what we're all about, which is the most rewarding way that you can experience another person. It's that softness. When you really feel like you understand somebody or they understand you, and when they speak to you, it gives you this warm feeling inside. That tenderheartedness is so important to experience with all the essential people in your life, your family, your best friends, this kind of stuff. It's impossible to experience all the time with everybody. I'm not suggesting that, but to have those moments with your kids every once in a while is really what builds deep roots of bonding together. But it requires you to be undistracted in your heart, that you're really giving them their attention and you're open-hearted, meaning you're trying to understand them, you're trying to really hear them and what they're expressing. That tenderheartedness allows for the deepest trust. They will trust you to the end of the moon if you can just be there and hear them out and listen to them and experience them, and also be honest with them. It's a form of respect that when you say I respect you, it doesn't make it nearly as much impact as when you really just sit and listen to somebody and experience them through your heart. That's the deepest form of respect, and their soul will respect you. So the last part is that most people feel like they're failing as a parent. And as dads, this is, again, our culture is completely against supporting us as being dads. It's trying to get us to hook up with other people other than our wives, to judge our kids, to feel disconnected from our kids. If you really look at movies, at songs and all that, the most popular ones and the ones that are being shoved down our throat all the time are not really helpful to us being amazing parents, especially dads. If you want to not be a failure, the main thing that you really need to do is to figure out what it means to be a success. What does a successful relationship look like between you and your kids? What does that dynamic feel like? How do you speak to each other? And it becomes a matter of practicing that day in and day out. Because when we compare ourselves to other people, to other dads or whatever, it's a failing dynamic. You will never be like another dad because you are you and your kid is your kid, and you have a completely different dynamic. The way that you feel love from each other, the way that you communicate, everything is unique to that relationship. And so vision is essential. And I want to give you a couple examples. First, from my own life, is like I travel a lot, and I travel sometimes alone, for work, but I also try to bring my family as much as possible. And that requires us to live a life that's very different than most people. We spent a year in Bali. We've spent, summers in Mongolia. We've spent, it's completely, I love it. Our kids love it. But if I compare our family to other families, like who go to these highfalutin fancy schools, who drive these fancy cars and all this stuff, then I start to feel like, oh, maybe I'm failing them. But that's failure based on a marketing vision for what it means to be a good parent. If I look at what I value truly as a good parent, it's that I'm giving a lot of attention to my kids, and I'm supporting them and discovering what their true passions and their geniuses are, and uplifting them so that they can fulfill those. So I'm starting a school just for my kids so that they can, have a thriving, because I could never find a good school. So I'm starting one for them with some people that I know. And this creates this atmosphere where I'm creating my own rules for this game. It's like, what is a success? What is a failure by my own standards? That's essential, because if you create a paradigm of what is a success or failure based on other people's standards, you're never going to win. You're always going to feel like you're behind. So the first thing is to create a vision and a set of rules to live by that you view to be a success or failure, and then to work at practicing at living up to those standards. I want to give you another example from this father-son dynamic that I heard from, because it really impacted me, which is there's a father and son that were really fighting, especially when the son, he was the eldest son of 5 kids who reached 16, and he and his dad were just constantly butting heads, constantly, at odds on every topic. They had this recurring theme of fighting about everything, kind of bumping chests and doing this like, I don't need you anymore, Dad, and the dad being like, you don't know what you're talking about, and boom, boom, boom. And then one day, the dad just broke down. And he looked at his son and he said, son, this is my first time being a dad. You're my eldest son. I'm learning how to be a dad, and you're learning how to be a son. Can we just be on the same team? And that was this defining moment when they stopped fighting each other and they learned that they're both in many ways so similar, and they're fighting over different perspectives on the same issues because they think that they have to etch out this space in their family, whereas if they come from a different perspective, that they're a part of the same team, that they're trying to learn how to love each other, then it completely shifted how they felt about the other person. They stopped judging the other person and expecting all this stuff from them, and they just focused on what they're bringing to the table, what they're bringing to the relationship. So I'm gonna end it there, right? If you really want to be a success at being a dad and stop worrying about so many things, stop having so much stress and anxiety, then be present. Formulate a vision for what you would like to be as a parent and what you would love to experience as a family, and just practice that every single day of bringing more to the table because as a leader, people will follow you. As the dad in the family, your kids will eventually follow you. They'll follow your example. Maybe not the first day or month or year. Maybe it might take some time. But if you're consistently exemplifying love and tolerance and paying attention to people, giving people the benefit of the doubt, that will be returned to you with interest. But if you fail to do that and you just judge people, you get angry, you're short-tempered, then that will also come back to you with interest, and it will create an abundance of stress and negative, results. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comments below. As always, subscribe, like, obsess, go through all my videos. I'm here to help you get past stress, overwhelm, anxiety, so that you can really experience the wonderment of life itself, the joy of the kind of minutia and the grandiose, so that you can just be here and now and really enjoy life, so that it doesn't slip through your fingers and you don't wake up a spaz dad when you're 65. See you next time.